Yo, what up, people? Welcome back or welcome. This is episode blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of done doing that, but I don't know how to stop saying that. So I guess we'll figure that out in the next episode because I already ruined it here. Welcome back or welcome. I hope that this finds you when it needs to find you. I hope that you hear what you need to hear. I'm taking my seatbelt off now. And to state the obvious, we're back in my car. We are. So I apologize for that, but also, does it really matter? Sometimes you guys are just here to listen. If you guys are here to listen, does it, I like more scenic spots, but, I got the traffic going on behind me, and I appreciate that for what it is. So, it's raining out, so I wasn't going to sit out here and get my camera soaked. But today's topic is a question. Today's question is, do you take responsibility? Honestly. Do you take responsibility? Do you look yourself in the mirror? Do you address your flaws? Do you understand that you're not as flawless and as pure as you may think you are? Do you take responsibility? Honestly, ask yourself that. Are you aware? Are you aware of the person that you are becoming, have been? Are you aware of your growth? Are you aware of your shortcomings? Are you aware that, the world around you is a mirror? And if something harms you, gets to you, if it affects you, maybe there's something within you that you need to look at and understand before you start to point the finger. And to be honest, I think this world does a lot more of pointing the finger than we should do. We're all too focused on who's to blame. We're all too focused on, if there's a political turmoil, or if there's a sickness, or, what's in our food, or, hating on our parents, or parents hating on their children, or we find excuses, we find reasons why we are not the people to blame. But you are not as pure or stainless as you may think you are. All of us have played in dirt. And you can't look around and judge people for the mud that's on their shirts when you've done the same thing before. I'm not saying you're a bad person for it. I'm not saying you're not worth it. I'm not saying that, you need to judge yourself heavily. But be aware. If you have played in dirt before, then you have to understand that you get dirty from that. But what you also need to know is that as you play in that dirt, you're just carving room for the seeds. Where are seeds planted? It's in the dirt. Where do they grow? In the dirt. You grow when you acknowledge, when you recognize that you have gotten yourself dirty before. And the more you don't hide from the rain, the more you face the rain, the more you acknowledge that that is exactly what's going to help you grow. And maybe the rain is symbolic for the tears or the emotion, whatever it is. The more you acknowledge that rain, the more your seeds will grow. So, mud and dirt is so scary, and you're this horrid person because, you've done the same thing that everybody else has done in their lives, but you're growing from it. And as long as you are aware of that, as long as you can take responsibility for that, take responsibility for your actions, for the person that you are, the person that you will become, the person that you have been, so on and so forth, the more you can actually grow from it. I think, honestly, you're a step ahead of people if you do the same thing that everybody does, but you just actually acknowledge it. You don't skip over it. You don't say, I'm entitled to a blow up and that's just fine. You say, I blew the fuck up. It honestly scared me that I can be that person, but I'm going to step up to the plate and I'm going to take my responsibility, And a big part of taking responsibility is, are you a responsible individual? Do you have your priorities in check? Because if you don't, then you kind of can't point the finger at other people and say, hey, you're not doing the right thing, but I'm not doing the right thing. But don't look over here. Don't worry about me. I'm going to worry about you. That's like, You know, I love this expression. I came up with this myself. You guys are probably going to think I'm so dumb for this. That's like if I look at you and I got a cup of lemonade and I say, dude, why do you have lemonade? I fucking hate lemonade, dude. Get that shit out of here. I hate lemonade. And you're like, hey, but you have lemonade too. And I take it and I put it under the table. And by the way, my cup is bigger, but I take it and I put it under the table and I say, the fuck are you talking about, dude? Get that lemonade the fuck out of here. Go dump that down the sink and throw it out. Isn't that so dumb? That can describe so many things. I won't get into where I actually came up with that because none of you guys want to hear about that. But but yeah, you can't be narcissistic. You can't be hypocritical. You can only go through life, acknowledge that you've stained your shirt before, and pay attention to the fact that other people have done the same, but don't focus on it so much to the point where you're using it as fuel to not pay attention to your own. You know? You can grow from your pain and you can grow from others' pain, yes. That's acceptable. It's acceptable to acknowledge the pain that other people have gone through. In fact, we are so disconnected from each other that a lot of people avoid or get nervous or shell-shocked when they realize that other people have gone through pain. You don't need to do that. You don't need to hide from their pain, but you don't need to hide from yours. And don't use their pain to hide from yours, and don't use your pain to hide from theirs. Be a human being. Human beings get dirty. Human beings are fucked up. But human beings grow. They grow. That's literally what it is. So as long as you acknowledge you will grow. And as long as you don't run from that rain, you will grow. And as long as you stop judging others, then you are more pristine than, most of us. And I want to acknowledge, personally, I've had an experience, and I'll get more into that, but I don't take responsibility all that often. I'm trying. I am. And maybe I'm trying more than the rest of us, and I have this thing where I sell myself short, and I take responsibility for that as well, and that's given me chills because it means a lot to me to actually say that out loud, but I have a hard time taking responsibility at the same time. And the experience that I experienced was over the weekend. I usually play soccer with a couple dudes. I mentioned in an earlier episode, guess what sport I play? I just told you. So, I guess the guessing phase is over. Now you know that I play soccer. Do I give you that vibe? Probably. But I play soccer with these dudes, and I'd like to say that we're all friends. Some of them I'm not, it doesn't matter how I feel about them. Not really. You guys don't care. Unneeded context. I argued with somebody. He pointed out something that he felt was a decision. I disagreed with the decision, let it slide. Later in the game, something similar happened. I used it as a platform to make a joke and poke fun at the fact that he had a genuine concern. And then he pointed out that I was being a dick. Not in a nice way, but he pointed out that I was being a dick. He's completely in the right to point that out. Maybe not in the way that he did it, but he's in the right for pointing that out. I then reacted. I didn't apologize. I reacted. I told him, yeah, I do want to be that way. Yeah, absolutely I want to be that way. It was a joke, but if you want to act like a big baby over it, and I keep gaslighting him, basically. I'm gaslighting him at this point, telling him that your concerns are not valid. I don't give a shit about what you say. I don't give a shit about what you feel. I'm not here to take responsibility for my shit. You need to take responsibility for yours. Meanwhile, you're not even the one who fucking started this. Bogus, right? Absolutely. And then, eventually, I go up to him, kind of still in the heat of the moment, and I said, I'm sorry. How about that? And that was still in a joking, sarcastic, dickhead fashion. But then later I went up to him and I said, I gotta repeat to you, I am sorry. I didn't actually genuinely apologize to you. I just was in the heat of the moment. I was pissed off. And all that I did was I kind of just, bullshitted you. And you didn't deserve that. You had a valid concern. I took the opportunity to poke fun at you. And I was a dick. And to be honest, I shouldn't have been a dick. I didn't need to be a dick. There was no valid reason for that. And you had a valid reason to point out that I was a dick, and I apologize. And so I did take responsibility. But that was in hindsight. And maybe this again is me just selling myself too short. Maybe I do more than I let on. And maybe that's more mature than anybody else that you'll come across. But I told him the part that really disappointed me is that when you pointed it out, because my pride was at stake, because this was in front of people, I reacted. I didn't say, I'm sorry, did that bother you? I said that afterwards, yeah. But I reacted, and everybody does. So maybe this, I guess, is just an opportunity for me to say to myself, everybody plays in dirt, Does it make it right what I did? No. But he played in dirt in the way that he called me out. Should I have reacted that way? No. But everybody plays in dirt. And if I did that, how can I, be mad at myself that there are stains when everybody has stains? And what I did was I went up to him, I took my dirty white shirt and I bleached it. I bleached it and I got as much of that stain out as possible. And I did my best to help him clean up his. And so I don't really give myself that credit, but I do own up to my percentage. And what I'm here to tell you is that you need to own up to your percentage. And if you don't, or even if you do, just ask yourself that question. Ask yourself, do you take your percentage? Do you take that responsibility? If you're in an argument, if you're in a fight, if you're in a disagreement, if you're in an agreement, if you've created something beautiful, take responsibility for it. It's all too often that people me right now, talk a lot about you need to take responsibility for your negativity, for your actions, for all that kind of shit. And when we say actions, we mean what you've done wrong. We don't mean what you've done right. You've created before. You are living. You are literal life. You have had ups and downs, and those ups are just as big as those downs. You need to acknowledge that if you've done anything recently, if you've woken up and got out of bed, take responsibility for that. And that's not what I was here to talk about, but that I think is more important than, maybe not more important, but it's just as important as taking responsibility for what you have done wrong. You're not just wrong, you are right. You are in the right. So as much as everybody's played in dirt, everybody's washed their clothes before, And that's something that we deserve and need to acknowledge, is that we're worth more than that, and you deserve to take percentage, okay. You deserve to take your percentage of what's beautiful about you. I just released a song, and I don't feel good about it, but I like the way I wrote it. Do I like certain other things about it? All the intricate details I won't tell you, because I don't need to sit here and slander myself or slander the people that worked with me. But I wrote it beautifully, and it meant a lot to me. And the message of the song, as much as I may not have liked the song in the end product, even though I never like my stuff, the message of the song was to stop holding yourself up, to stop spending yesterdays worrying about another day, to just be present. And releasing that song taught me to be present, and I need to take responsibility for the fact that I was present enough in a working state to create something that is beautiful in its own right. Whether I like it or not, I created something, And you don't make good art unless you make bad art at first. You don't do this unless you do that, And that's kind of, I take responsibility for that, for the fact that I'm a beautiful, creative individual, for the fact that I am a generous, caring, loving, creative, responsible, and I know I already said caring, but that's the only thing coming to mind, individual. I'm worth it, and so are you. So are you. And as much as it may may feel dirty and wrong that you've been a human before. It's all about growth. And like I said, you don't grow unless you're in the dirt. You don't grow unless you're in the dirt and then you get rained on and you get muddy. You know, it's about growing and tending to your garden, you know, because no seeds will grow if you're, you know, peeking over the fence and not watering your own shit. If your little water pot is over there, is that what it's called? Whatever. Your little pot is over there, sitting on the brick, and you're peeking over the fence and looking at somebody else's garden, who's watering yours? And if the neighbor's over there looking at you, looking at your neighbor, who's looking at your other neighbor, who's looking at so on and so forth, who's growing? Who's growing? Is it the guy that's all the way at the end of that line that's actually watering his fucking garden? Be that dude. Be that dude. Be extra. And this world thinks that it's extra. That you're putting an effort for yourself. That you acknowledge that there is something to you that's worth putting effort into. You're extra for that. That care and that attention to detail is dumb. And why get dirty when you can stay pristine? You know? But none of us are fucking pristine. And if you think that you're pristine, then you're worse. You are worse. Sorry to break it to you. You know? And I'm sorry that I come off with extreme judgment with that, because that's something that I need to face and deal with. But I judge the fuck out of people who will make it a point to say my situation is worse than yours just because it is, and I've done everything right. I've done everything right. Everything that you have done to get yourself to this position right here, right now, I have done before. And I am right, and I am better than you. And if I'm not better than you, then I'm just as good as you. So why have I not gotten this far? You know? Take responsibility. Take responsibility. You want to dig shit up in your garden, bro. Like, that's as simple as it is and as simple as it needs to be. It's very complex. Very complex. But the fact of the matter is, you can't play in dirt and not get dirty. You can't do things wrong, or do things right for that matter, and not take responsibility for them. Stop hiding from the rain, because you will grow. Stop hiding from the dirt, because then you can't plant your seeds. Life is and can be that simple. So look yourself in the mirror, take responsibility, be responsible, own up to your percentage, you know, because you may think that you're right, but the issue with that is you may is uncertain, think is uncertain, you're right. You may think you're right. None of that sentence is certain. I know I'm right is completely different, but you don't know you're right. You don't. You're guessing. Same as the rest of us. So stop judging. Stop worrying about what somebody else is doing with their plants, with their garden, with whatever they have. Stop worrying about somebody else and focus on you. Grow for you. Take your percentage, take your responsibility. And even if that's for the good things, because you deserve the good things. And if it helps you, pay attention to those good things first, because you deserve it. No matter who you are, who you have been in the past, who you are going to become, if you've done something good, you at least deserve to feel happy with yourself for that brief moment. So, thank you guys for listening as always. I don't know if this is short. I don't have the timer over my head right now. And maybe I don't need to put myself on a time limit, you know? But I love you guys. And I love myself for everything I've created, and I take responsibility for the fact that I love myself. And I hope you do the same. And I hope that you look at yourself, and you honestly look at yourself, and you honestly acknowledge what ways you can grow, what ways you need to step back, and so on and so forth. Seriously, I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. And I love myself. I love me. And I love that I have this in me that there is something that I can talk about, that I can talk in a camera, that I'm delusional enough that I can sit and write and make sense of it, that I'm delusional enough that I can sit in front of this camera and make sense of the issues that I've been dealt. I fucking love me, and I take responsibility for the person that I am because I'm a beautiful individual, and I hope that that infects you. I hope that that infects you so drastically that it's like a disease and it poisons your brain, and in the way that it poisons your brain is simply in the fact that from this point forward, you look at yourself like you are the greatest thing ever, because you fucking are. You are living, you are alive, you are actively acknowledging, growing, and proceeding to move forward. I love you for whatever the fuck you carry and however you carry it. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening. Be good. I hope that this found you when it needs to find you. I hope that you heard what you need to hear. Peace.